Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a mental model that, well, honestly, most of us probably already know from a classic pop culture archetype. Think back to that 1980s hit TV show MacGyver, right? The hero was absolute legend for getting out of these totally impossible situations, and he didn't use weapons or superpowers. He just creatively combined whatever random, ordinary items he could find lying around. A paperclip, some duct tape, maybe a AAA battery, and boom, he saved the day. But what is actually going on inside our heads when we pull off a trick like that? I mean, think of your brain like this busy, super well-ordered workshop. You know, the tools are neatly hung up, the blueprints are all drawn out, and then, out of nowhere, a massive, severe storm hits. The windows blow wide open, the lights are flickering, and you have to board up the doors right this second using just the random scraps scattered on the floor. That urgent, chaotic, panicked workshop, that's exactly what we're going to explore today. Which actually brings up a really provocative question. Can you truly be creative under severe stress? See, we usually picture creativity as this super relaxed, kind of daydreamy state, right? Actually, Lee Z. Lodoff, the literal creator of the MacGyver character, even he noted that his absolute best story ideas usually bubbled up when he was doing chill things, like taking a shower or just going for a long drive. But when sudden, severe danger strikes, the mind just radically shifts gears. It completely drops that wide-open, dreamy style of thinking. Instead, it snaps into this incredibly tight, ultra-practical mode. You basically stop looking for beautiful, abstract solutions, and you just start looking for whatever is going to keep you alive for the next 5 minutes.
And believe it or not, there's actually an official scholarly term for this whole MacGyvering phenomenon. It's called bricolage. Bricolage is essentially the art of practical improvisation and resourceful making. It's the act of just grabbing whatever lies closest at hand to build an immediate fix. So it's not about designing the absolutely perfect, beautifully crafted tool, it's about hacking together a tool that works right now, before the clock runs out.
Act 1. The context.
Okay, let's dive into this. To really wrap our heads around the philosophy of bricolage, we can look at the writings of an author we'll just call Papa. Now, Papa often wrote about his late father, who went by the nickname Papa Q Bear. And Papa Q Bear had this very specific, really fascinating brand of ingenuity. He used to say that his absolute best ideas came when life pressed him hard. And to be clear, he didn't mean those lofty philosophical ideas that sort of float up in the clouds. No, he meant the practical kind, what he loved to call his Rube Goldberg solutions. Imagine a totally wild, chaotic machine built out of random bits of string, rusty pulleys, and spare parts. It takes this crazy zigzag path, but ultimately, it drops the ball exactly where it needs to go. That was his mind under pressure, just rapidly stitching together whatever was lying around.
And honestly, this is a brilliant illustration of a crucial distinction in how we human beings innovate. We basically have two modes, creativity when bored and creativity under stress. So when we're bored, or maybe just under-challenged, creativity is simply a way of staying active. It's open, it's dreamy, it wanders all over the place. But creativity under stress, that is a hardwired survival response, looking for a fast solution to a massive, immediate threat. It is urgent and it is relentlessly practical. So one path blooms in these quiet, wide-open spaces, while the other literally ignites when the fire is right at your heels. Both of them are taking scattered threads and weaving them into an answer, but they are driven by entirely different biological engines.
Act 2. The tension. So what does this all mean under the hood? Well, to really understand the tension between these two states of mind, we have to look at the evolving landscape of our brain's neural networks. Specifically, how the brain physically reallocates its resources when the alarm bells start ringing. Now, under normal everyday conditions, creative thought is this lovely little dance between two networks. First, you have the default network, which is busy generating all sorts of novel, quirky ideas. And then you have the executive control network, which calmly evaluates and selects the best ones to use. But when acute stress hits, boom, your fight-or-flight response kicks in and completely floods your body with dopamine and cortisol. Your salience network, which is basically your brain's internal threat detection system, massively surges to make you hyper-vigilant. And while that's happening, the executive control network actually dials way back. Its activity decreases. Your brain is literally pulling power away from calm, long-term planning and funneling every ounce of juice straight into immediate threat handling.
And because of this massive chemical flood, what we call divergent thinking, that free-flowing ability to brainstorm dozens of weird and unusual options, that usually just falters. Your working memory gets a little shaky. But on the flip side, convergent thinking, which is that sharp, highly tactical ability to lock onto one solid, immediate answer, that actually holds steady or even improves. Think about it. You don't stand there and brainstorm 10 different innovative ways to put out a raging fire. No, your brain laser focuses on that one bucket of water sitting 3 feet away.
And science tells us there's a really critical biological time frame at play here: 1 hour. In the immediate aftermath of a severe stressor, like right within that first golden hour, your brain's salience network completely overrides the executive control network. Your biology is saying, look, we are prioritizing absolute, immediate survival over flexible, long-term judgment. It's a highly specialized state of mind, and it's custom-built for brief, incredibly intense bursts of problem-solving.
And I'd argue the absolute greatest historical example of this in action is the Apollo 13 mission. Think about it. Stranded hundreds of thousands of miles from Earth, failing life support, precious minutes literally ticking away. The astronauts and the ground team back in Houston weren't sitting around chasing abstract originality. This was a raw life-or-death puzzle. With incredibly limited scraps and totally crushing pressure, they literally invented a workable carbon dioxide filter out of socks, plastic bags, and duct tape. No joke. Their minds narrowed down to a single white-hot laser beam, get this crew home alive. It was raw, it was incredibly fast, and it was brilliantly effective bricolage.
Act 3. The connection.
So how exactly does this translate to us? I mean, we might not be astronauts stranded in deep space, but we all face moments where the pressure just suddenly spikes, right? Think of the whole process kind of like being locked in a ticking escape room. You're trapped, that clock on the wall is counting down super loudly, your heart is pounding. So what actually happens? Well, first, you identify the immediate threat, the ticking clock. Second, you frantically grab whatever random scraps are available, maybe a weird-looking key or a hidden pattern scratched on the wall. Third, you creatively recombine them. And fourth, you execute the fix to burst through that door. You see, when the pressure truly builds, a good team doesn't just shut down. They actually begin to sparkle. That instinct for improvisation wakes up, and the group morphs into this quick-handed craftsman, instantly turning junk into a working key.
In this way, acute stress is basically like a fierce, sudden gale. It forces you to completely stop admiring the scenery and just start building a shelter with whatever broken branches and wet leaves you can scrounge up. It absolutely forces quick, vital results. It totally strips away any sense of perfectionism and leaves you with only what is strictly 100% necessary to survive.
But, and this is a really big but, this brings us to a super vital warning. What happens if you stay in that gale for too long? See, while short-term stress creates this amazing, sharp, tactical edge, lingering, chronic stress, it does the exact opposite. If that fight-or-flight biology doesn't ever get the signal to turn off, it literally begins to physically erode your memory, your cognitive flexibility, and your clear judgment. That brilliant creative spark doesn't race forward anymore, it just gets exhausted and starts to fade out. Because let's face it, even the strongest builder is going to grow weary if the storm never, ever ends.
The synthesis. Wow, okay, so we've journeyed all the way from a 1980s TV hero into a grandfather's dusty garage, through the literal neural pathways of the human brain, and all the way out into outer space. So what's the big takeaway here? The absolutely crucial point is this. Stress is not just some universal creativity killer. It's actually a double-edged sword and a massive catalyst. Bricolage is this incredibly sharp, tactical form of survival creativity. When the pressure hits, your brain brilliantly shifts its resources straight to the salience network. It narrows down your broad horizons and locks you onto immediate, life-saving fixes. It literally turns you into a MacGyver. But the ultimate wisdom here is knowing exactly how to balance this. It's knowing when to harness the chaotic energy of the storm to get things done, and knowing when it is absolutely vital to seek calmer skies so your mind can actually rest, recover, and reset.
And I want to leave you with one final, really warm thought today, inspired by Papa's reflections on his father's crazy Rube Goldberg solutions. He said, sometimes the result looks rough around the edges, but it gets the job done when it matters most. So the next time the pressure is on and that clock is ticking down, hey, don't panic. Trust your brain's incredible, hardwired biology. Trust your inner MacGyver to stitch together a solution out of thin air. Because the real question is, what will you build when the storm hits?